Welcome to the All Eers podcast, powered by HD Media.
Hi, all. Lend me your ears, the new edition of the All Eers podcast, and I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy. You can follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7, and this is a WVU-based podcast, specifically WVU athletics, and we got a lot of different things to get into today. In this first segment, we're going to talk a little bit more about WVU women's basketball with some recent news involving one of the players. We'll talk about that here in just one moment. In our second segment, we're going to be joined by a very special guest. For a lot of people that have followed or did follow the Charleston Gazette-Mail for quite some time, you will remember the name that we will be bringing up in our next segment, because I don't want to give too much away, because it's very exciting to have him on, as he will be a weekly guest for us. And then in our final segment, we will touch on baseball, recent news regarding the Mountaineer baseball team, and what is ahead for WVU. So as I mentioned, again, the WVU women's basketball season ended on Monday, losing to Kentucky 74-73. If you want a full recap of that, you can go back to our previous episode as I talked with Quinn Roby from the Daily Athenaeum and U92 Student Radio at WVU. And we talked about a lot of different things, so I encourage you to go back, listen to that podcast with Quinn. And one of the things that has also came out recently is the news that Jordan Harrison, the WVU women's basketball guard, is a semifinalist for the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year. And rightfully so. For people that watched her, whether it be over the weekend, in the Big 12 tournament, or during the regular season, she was everywhere. She's kind of like Lent. She was everywhere consistently, whether it was taking a charge, swiping away steals, whatever it may be, she was there making an impact on the defensive end of the floor. And here's the stat for you of the day. 280 steals that Jordan Harrison recorded in her 3 years as a Mountaineer. That now is fifth all time, and it was actually one better than Donna Abbott, who played for the Mountaineers for 4 years from 1988 to 1992. So congratulations to Jordan Harrison with her steals on the career list, but also becoming a semifinalist for the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year. Break to take here. We're going to be joined by a very special guest coming up on the other side of this break. So be tuned and stay tuned as well. This is the All Eers podcast.
HD Media Sports is your one-stop destination for top high school and college sports coverage in the Mountain State. From Morgantown to Mingo County, our award-winning reporters keep you informed about your favorite teams and players, including exclusive coverage of the Marshall Thundering Herd and the West Virginia Mountaineers. Follow HD Media Sports on Facebook to stay up to date on the latest news, features, and game coverage.
Oh, good gravy. The kind made from real premium sausage. The kind that's smothered over deliciousness. The kind you can only get at Tudor's Biscuit World. That's the gravy that's oh so good. It's the perfect topping to your biscuits or your taters, and even makes a delicious side. It's oh so good gravy. Tudor's Biscuit World. We're dripping with oh good gravy.
Welcome back into a new edition of the All Eers podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy. Thank you all for joining us. However you may be listening to us, you can find us on Spotify and Apple. You can find those links in the description, along with all of our social media channels as well. And we are pleased to be joined by a very special guest. For a lot of you people out there that have followed the Charleston Gazette-Mail for quite some time, you know the name Mitch Vingle, former Charleston Gazette-Mail sports editor. He also was the WVU beat writer for quite some time, and we're pleased to be joined by a legend, as some would say, a legend in Mitch Vingle. Mitch, welcome to the program.
It's going well, Taylor. I really appreciate you guys reaching out and getting back a little bit into my old stomping grounds and, talking to my friends. I lived there for, 24 years, I guess. And it really was the most fun time of my life and covering all the sports. And around this time of year, spending day and night, it seemed like, in the Civic Center, for all the basketball tournaments. And great time of my life and glad to be doing this.
Yeah, it's almost like an alum coming back to a school and just kind of looking at how everything's looking now. Things are probably a little bit different now than when it was whenever you were here many years ago.
Oh, it was completely different. When I went there, we went through so many changes, and then when the two papers merged, there were more changes, and it was crazy. I mean, I used to fly all over the place and do all kind of things, and so I'm glad to see, the Gazette-Mail doing well and healthy, and I was worried for a while, but seems like you guys have really done a great job and are healthy as can be right now.
Well, we try to eat a lot of fiber, a lot of protein, a lot of potassium whenever we have a cramp. So we try and stick to that normal athlete mentality. You know how it is over here.
Yeah. Just watch the way that the FDA puts their food triangle, which up or down.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know if it's a pyramid scheme or not, but no, I get it.
That's right.
Well, Mitch, I know you've since retired now from your days of working in the media, but you and I were talking before we got on here. You still follow the West Virginia Mountaineers very thoroughly. And let's start with women's basketball, because you had also mentioned how you and your wife went to the WVU women's basketball game on Saturday whenever West Virginia played Miami of Ohio in front of a crowd of 13,544, if I'm not mistaken, 547, something like that. It was a new attendance record regardless. Right. Biggest takeaway that you have with this women's basketball team this season, especially after seeing how they performed in the NCAA tournament?
Well, first of all, I liked having the parking pass and the press pass to sit instead of general admission, which was crazy. You had to go find your own seat, but I'm still getting used to that, Taylor. But overall, just unbelievable. I mean, I talked to some people. I talked to Shelley Poe, who was the sports information director at W for years and years, and she was downright emotional about how far the W women's program has come. I mean, if back in the day, and this was a little bit before me when Title IX came around, I think 72, Kitty Blakemore, who started the program, had to go to athletic director Red Brown and say, hey, man, we need a women's basketball program. They needed volleyball, whatever, to be compliant. So they had like a few professors, Martha Thorne, they started the program as coaches, and they were just, within the faculty. And then it has come so far from that point. But I remember Shelley saying that, Kitty Blakemore, who was that first coach, always thought that it could get to this point because of the how much West Virginians love their sports and WU fans love their Mountaineers. So it's really, really neat to see, and I was there and I covered Rosemary Kasoric in the early 90s. And of course, Mike took the program over a little bit there. And I mean, Mike Carey, and then we had, way back when Georgianne Wells was the first to dunk, and there were spots here and there. But Taylor, I don't think I've ever seen the Mountaineer fans come together like this. I mean, I don't think they've connected to the program, even under Mike, who had some great years.
Oh, yeah.
Like they are doing right now. And I wonder how they did. I know they had a day of giving or whatever at W the other day. And I wonder how the women's basketball program did, because, like I said, those crowds were outstanding, and the girls are so fun to watch. And I hope he maintains the coach and just keeps building this thing, because everybody's on board right now like I've never seen before.
Yeah, you mentioned the West Virginia Day of Giving, which happened on Wednesday as we're recording this on Thursday. They raised $22 million for everything across the university, and they had 11,000 gifts, which was the most amount of gifts that the West Virginia Day of Giving had raised since its inauguration in 2017, or its inaugural year in 2017. So I just think that just culminates what you're saying. I think you're starting to see a lot more investment, not only in the athletic department, but also the job that Michael Benson's been doing elsewhere amongst other university entities per se. And I think Ren Baker has a large piece in that puzzle as well. But going back to your point, and I want to go along this, and I want to ask you this question. So you mentioned the crowd aspect of it, and you're in the discussions with Shelley Poe and mentioning Kitty Blakemore as well. Do you think what we saw in those two games in the NCAA tournament, having 12,000 plus fans in those two games, do you think that's more of a culmination or a positive as to what Mark Kellogg has done in his 3 years, or do you think that's Mountaineer fans longing for a successful team and now are sticking with that now? How do you kind of see that playing out?
Yeah, I think there's some of that, what you were talking about. I mean, starving for relevance. I think that, you look at baseball, Mountaineer fans are coming out for baseball. They're coming out for the women's basketball. They're really wanting that national relevance. And those two sports are giving that right now. And, they're just dying for the football team. They're dying for the men's basketball team. But also, again, I think that they've connected, especially with this women's basketball team. I remember when Mike Carey was coaching, and this is way back when Alexis Hornbuckle and Renee Montgomery was coming from the valley there, and they had nothing to do with WVU, and going there didn't really consider it. And now I think that's going to be changing. I think he's connected with WVU fans of West Virginia as a whole. I think there's a lot of support. I think there's great pride, and I think it's something that they could really build on. It's something to invest in for sure.
Yeah, and the other side of it too is you got to be able to retain him as well, because as you well know, with how the money has shifted and changed in collegiate athletics, you could very easily see people trying to poach him. So I think I'm with you. You got to be able to figure out a way to not only retain players, but now you got to try and retain Mark Kellogg and his staff. And for the job that they've done, he's done a fantastic job of connecting with the state and its university. But yeah, I'm with you. I think if they can figure out a way to either extend his contract further, which I feel like could potentially happen. I don't want to speak for Ren Baker per se, but that has to be one of the things on his checklist, especially seeing what happened over the weekend as well. Because again, I'm with you. West Virginia has been starving recently from some kind of national relevancy, and I think by seeing what the women's basketball team was able to produce over the weekend, I think that's the start of something new, or the start of something that people can latch onto. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think I will give credit. I forget the coach's name. She went to Minnesota.
Don Plitzaway.
Yes. And I think it's a little bit of it. There was a teeny spark there with her. Now, again, I think that we have to step back a little bit. And like I said, we have to give Mike Carey because, who is it? Tynese Martin? When they had the upset over Baylor and all that
in
stuff.
In 2017, yep.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. That was unbelievable. Even going back further, like I mentioned, Rosemary Kasoric. And she sort of reminded me of Jordan Harrison a little bit, because they would just pick the ball and go for layups. That was kind of their whole thing. They were just little gnats. And, but yeah, I think this feels different. And I'm sure you agree. Those things felt special, but this feels different, like it could be a movement.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I think the other sport as well that people are trying to latch back onto again is football. As you well know, in the early 2000s, leading into about 08, 07 even, people latched onto football like white on bread. So I think now with football, year 2 now, in Rich Rodriguez's second year back, only having 4 wins a season ago, where's your head at now? Because we talk about women's basketball and the success that they've had, but now it's time to get serious here with football, because football is right around the corner. As surprising and as terrifying as that is to say from a media perspective, it's time to get serious with football now, right? What are your expectations?
Right. You better get your vacation in, buddy.
Yeah. Amen.
I don't know, man. I go back and forth on this, because I know that, gosh, what he signed, 75, 80 players.
Yeah, between there, yeah.
I know he had a couple pretty good recruits in the tackle, Kevin Brown, and the safety, Sieg. I mean, even the class was rated pretty decent, but I'm still waiting for that connect to come back under Rich Rod, like it was before. I mean, before he was like the shiny new penny, coming from Clemson, and everybody was, da-da-da, here comes our guy. And now it's like, okay, Rich, here's your shot to redeem yourself. It's a different feel. And of course, after last year, and I mean, the last time we saw them, they were losing 49-0 to Texas Tech. I mean, that was a bad taste to leave the season with. his first go round, it was kind of the reverse when he was in Morgantown. They were 2-8 or something like that, if my memory serves. But they beat Rutgers, I think, toward the end of the year, like 80-7 or some crazy score like that. So I don't know. I hope they can do it. I know he's going to work hard to do it because, this is his integrity, his pride when it comes to West Virginia, and I know he's going to work hard. I don't know. You can't just bring players from Jacksonville State, and if you do, everybody's going to look at you and go, all right, you're the chef, make something tasty, make something good, out of what you brought here. So I don't know. I go back and forth. Like I said, I see this recruiting class, and I'm hopeful that you can get 30, 35 players out of the 80 that he brought in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. You bring that up because I think even going back to his first stint at WVU, he brought in guys. You really started to see around that 05 year who he was bringing in and the talent that he was bringing in. Hopefully, it doesn't take as long as it did before because obviously he got the job in 01. And I mean, even before Pat White and Steve Slayton, you had Rasheed Marshall as a signal caller. So he had talent. Now it's just a matter of, in today's day and age, how can you adapt to that on a newer scale at the Power 4 level? Because before NIL and even the transfer portal was as crazy as it was, he was still in the group of 5 level, like you mentioned, at Jacksonville State. So now I don't want to speak for him, but now it seems like he's trying to figure out how can he make his mark in this new day and age of collegiate athletics now at WVU and back at the Power 5 level. Do you kind of see that happening as well?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, Taylor, to remember is back in the day when this all came together for him and before him, when Don Nealon was coaching, I mean, those players you could develop. Don Nealon made a living out of targeting kids he thought could put on some weight, get a little faster, do it, they could work with these kids for 4 years. Now, man, those kids could be gone. I mean, we saw, the defensive lineman that went to Miami this year. We saw a kid, one of the better players, go to Minnesota, whatever. It's do it now, and that's a whole different thing. And that's what you got to wonder: is Rich Rod, equipped, able to do, win with kids that he's bringing in as transfers, JUCO, not just high school kids. I think it's going to be fascinating because I think they do have enough money there in Morgantown, and I know a lot of people are worried about that. But from what I understand, you have Texas Tech, and then West Virginia's kind of that second level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can they make this all work on basically a new model for Rich Rodriguez?
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. I 100% agree with you in that stance. So, Mitch, we're going to get you on weekly here, and I appreciate your time as always. We're going to call this Vingle's Views for everybody that's taking notes out there as to what Mitch and I have been talking about for the last 15 or so minutes. But, Mitch,
there you go, the throwback.
Yeah, the throwback. Yeah, the views from here. So we'll kind of toss it that way moving forward. But, Mitch, thank you for your time. Thank you for giving us your insight on everything WVU athletics, and we'll talk next week.
All right, looking forward to it, Taylor. Take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate Mitch. He'll be on weekly, and we're going to be titling it Vingle's Views, and we'll lead it off as normal, the views from here. So be sure to follow us on all of our social channels. Again, links are in the description. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Break to take here. We're going to talk more basketball along with some baseball notes on the other side of this break. This is the All Eers Podcast.
HD Media Game Day is your streaming home for the best in live high school sports across West Virginia. Featuring football, basketball, soccer, and more, HD Media Game Day brings the action to you for free, exclusively on our YouTube channel and at hdmediagameday.com. When you can't make it to the game, HD Media Game Day has you covered.
As the game gets faster, stronger, more dynamic, your equipment has to keep up. Introducing the Riddell Axiom, the next evolution in football protection. designed to match the speed and strength of today's athlete. Contact West Virginia Riddell Representative Casey Turley at 304-552-5960. Gear up, play smart, stay protected.
Final few minutes here of the All Eers podcast. We appreciate Mitch Vingle for joining us as he will be our weekly guest each week talking everything WVU athletics. And as I mentioned in our first segment, let's spend a little bit of time here as we close talking about the Mountaineer baseball team under Coach Steve Sabins and what an outing that they had against Marshall. Not quite the run total that they've been used to, especially in that BYU series where they got over 10 runs in 2 of their 3 games, but 3-0 over the Thundering Herd are the victorious West Virginia Mountaineers. But what a job by the bullpen, only allowing 1 hit as 4 different pitchers took to the mound, and it started with David Hagan, who got the nod as a starting pitcher, pitched 3 clean innings, not allowing a hit, no runs, no earned runs, but walked 2 and struck out 3. So a great job of the Mountaineers picking up the 3-0 victory over the Marshall Thundering Herd back on Tuesday. West Virginia will hit the road this weekend for a 3-game series against Arizona State starting on Friday against the Sun Devils, who are also nationally ranked number 22 in the country. And then next Tuesday, they will stay out in Arizona and will take on the Arizona Wildcats. Well, we appreciate you guys, as always, for listening to us. Again, you can find the links in the description to my Twitter. You can also find the links in the description for where you can find the podcast, whether it be on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or even on YouTube as well. So we will see you all next week. And again, be sure to follow us on social media as well. This is your host, Taylor Kennedy, signing off. This is the All Eers podcast.
You have been listening to the All Eers podcast, powered by HD Media.